Yeah. All right, speaking.
You're on topic right now.
I am. Oh my goodness. I just woke up. I'm the last speaker for our side right now, right? I am the last speaker for our side? Yeah, that sounds about right. And I just want to say, I think I would like to thank the other side, all kidding aside, for a great debate. I think we're going to compare very favorably to the next Centennial debate in 2114. I like our chances against the competitors in that round, who I anticipate will be the Heldematron 3000, R2D Barton, whoever takes Denton's spot, and me. All right, so let's go back to what we're talking about here in the resolution, because what these guys have done is really just engage in sophistry throughout the entire round, and it's been so long since I've said that. Because what they've done is they've defined their position to be that the public interest is whatever happens to be at a particular place and time. Well, if that's true, then no matter what the political discourse is, it's going to result in things being a certain way at a particular time, and you saw the gleam in Denton's eye when he realized that I had caught him on that in cross-examination, and don't deny it, because it was certainly there. So what they've given us is a resolution that can't really be proven one way or the other, which is essentially nothing, because they haven't met their burden of proving the negative to this resolution. And so that's the first reason you should vote for us. The second reason you should vote for us is because we gave you a very good analysis of how individuals are now exposed to more information than ever before, and they turn away from it than ever before. We saw a little bit of that emerging in the crossfire. And one of the examples I hear often on the other side is 538.com. Please, I beg you, go to 538.com right now, because Nate Silver says he's fighting a lonely crusade on behalf of data and analysis and hard data against folks who simply believe things in their gut. Remember the skewers back when there were like 10 opinion polls saying that Obama was going to win California, and then there was some guy sitting alone in his den being like, no, that can't be right. I'm going to throw that information on the internet, unskew all these polls, and that's going to prove that Mitt Romney is going to win California. Well, is that more information? Yes, that's more information. Is that accurate information? Not at all. And again, why is that information flow out there? Because that's what people want. It's natural and it's human, but we need to grow up. And we haven't grown up with the internet yet. And that's something that we need to do if we're going to advance and have a political discourse that serves the public interest, which we've defined as a way to find policies that improve the lives of people rather than keep each other, batting each other like those fighting robots that we used to have when we were kids. Well, at least Paul and I. Now, second, we've talked about the role of money, and we haven't really heard about much about money on the other side, and the reason is they don't have an answer to that. It's now easier than ever to buy an election. And is it true that we don't have folks, with stogies in the back rooms? Yeah, that's true. But you know what? They had no idea what the opinion polls were back then. They had no idea what it was. They didn't have folks going out, trying to skew the numbers because they didn't have any numbers that they knew how to skew. Finally, we talked about the role of elites and how politicians are simply rational actors in this situation. And he talks about the fact that, you have winners and losers in politics, and the losers have learned to take their turn. Look at Mitch McConnell, who promised at the beginning of Obama's second term that he would get absolutely nothing done. Does that sound like a good loser to you? It does not. In conclusion, let me just say one thing. This is the Hearn Centennial debate. And as it happens, I am 50% Hearn. Mom, what was your name before you got married?
Hearn.
It was Hearn. So what would be more fitting? What would be more fitting than to decide this in favor of somebody who is himself half Hearn? And if the other side wants to get up here and call my mom a liar. That will just go to show that American political discourse never serves the public interest. Thank you.
So this is it. I am all that stands between this room of people and the cannoli. So, I think in terms of themes for this debate, the thing to keep in mind is that you have to take the good with the bad. And so we're not saying that, American political discourse is all wonderful or all terrible. I think what we're saying is that on balance, it's better than it's bad, which is hopefully what you can say for this debate round. So let's just take this through, a couple of things, and I'm going to be, as brief as I can about some of this. But look at sort of the three categories that we broke this down into. Talking first about content, I think it is not a purely descriptive, a sort of purely self-serving description to say that things are a product of their time and place. But it is a function of the time and place that we live in, that we know more about our government and about politics than ever before. I mean, the idea that people would be having the sort of discussions about military operations in World War II that we were in fact having about the war in Afghanistan is unthinkable. The information just wasn't available, and even to the extent it was available, it wasn't disseminated. And that's the second point, is how is it being disseminated? Mike is exactly right, that the point is not that law professors are writing stuff and law professors always wrote stuff that boring people read. It's that law professors wrote stuff and people can get it without a subscription to the Yale Law Journal, which, no offense, David, you really don't want. And so the point is that these people are now influencing more folks than ever before. And what is the product of that influence? So 538 is a good example. We talked a lot about politics and here, but let's talk about baseball. Nate Silver broke in by creating a statistical metric for baseball called PECOTA as part of a team of writers for Baseball Prospectus. Baseball establishment folks hated them. There are a lot of scouts that got put out of jobs by work that these guys did that has filtered its way through. That Moneyball, they've now made all of these movies. This has become a very mainstream thing. But that's exactly what happened. A bunch of guys with a website changed the way we think about a game that's been around forever. And that's what people are doing about politics too. 538 is Nate Silver's attempt to take what he did with baseball and apply it to politics. And he's not just some rogue outsider. He got a big contract with the New York Times. And when ESPN offered him even more money, he left to go back to write for them. So these are people who have real penetration. And there are more and more copycats of this every day. And so to the extent that we're seeing people absorb discourse and change discourse, more is better. To the extent that some of that discourse is leading in obstructionist directions, again, I want to sort of stand up for the Tea Party here and say that that's not such a bad thing. That people are not holding up the executive nominees purely out of a desire to hate on these people, but because of legitimate differences about the role of agencies in government. These are views that people had that were always there. There were disagreements that were latent in American politics that just never got their expression until the present day. And so, at the end of the day, the point is simply this. We have more discourse than ever before. I don't think there's much disagreement about that. The question is whether that's good or bad. And the point is that it's neither. It's that it's better than it's not. And so, on balance, we do believe that American political discourse today does serve the public interest. Thank you all very much.
now doing the math. I would invite the Honorable John Codal to announce the winner here. John.
It's such a privilege to be here, and I know you want to know the answer to this, and I'll get to it in just a moment, but I can't help being a little overwhelmed by several things. First, the enormous standing ovation that Eric got at the outset. What a tribute to a debate coach and a teacher to get that kind of response from an audience like this. And it's an enormous tribute to Eric and everything that he's done. And another tribute is just listening to all of the debaters that have been coached over the years. It's an enormously heartwarming thing to see. And it's such a joy to come back. I'm reminded of a comment some years ago when I came back for another function at the school, when one of the older alumni said, we often ask ourselves, are the students today as good as we were? And the answer is no, they're better. This was a fantastic debate. It was very close, and my only job is to tell you which of these two great teams won. And the answer to that is that the affirmative prevailed.
It's the best of three, by the way, so. Round two. But again, I want to thank our judges, folks for flying in from all over. Several of our alums did that, and my colleagues from the New York metropolitan area. It means a lot. You know, one of the reasons we've had an excellent speech and debate team over the last 60 million years is because we are competing against excellent speech and debate teams every single weekend. So a round of applause for all of our coaches. Because this is a herd that we would never send you home on an empty stomach. So we ask you to join us for a big reception downstairs in the cafeteria. We'd ask the boys to wait so you don't trample your parents to death, okay? And we have wine and other drinks. The wine is for the adults, and various hors d'oeuvres that these guys made late last night, okay? That was one of the reasons Paul was late. And I know Alex, we're going to be sending him a care package of hors d'oeuvres so he can leave the airport in Boston, okay? So join us downstairs. Also for our judges, is Phil here? Phil Cly, just if I could borrow one of the books for a moment here. One of our gifts for all of our judges and for our debaters is a wonderful collection of short stories called Redeployment by Phil Cly, one of our former debaters in the Hearn, my assistant from 3 years ago, who also was stuck in Chicago at a book presentation. So he's going to sign the books for each of our guests today, so you can leave them, and then we will get them back to you. So I appreciate that, Phil. I appreciate you coming in. We also have the 4 debaters. Some bags for you over here. So join us downstairs, and thank you very much. I'll see you in the